Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. We're going to talk about something near and dear to our hearts today. This is our 5-step downsizing method.
Yeah.
So we're going to walk through the roadmap that we talk about in our classes and in our, upcoming workbook. And, this is what we've developed over the last few years of helping clients. We've touched on some of these steps in different episodes and different pieces, but we thought we would take the time to just walk you through it today.
Yeah, this is the method that, kind of guides our plan and helps us when we go talk to people, what step they're in, what steps they might have missed, how we can help them move forward. And I think that it's great for us to just kind of break it down for you because we have talked about all the different things, but I'm not sure we've had an episode where we really just kind of step by step went through it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Heather Fisher.
I'm Jody Roscoe.
And let's get started and just talk about it. Step 1. You want to introduce that one, Jody?
Yeah, so step 1 is dream it. And I know if you've listened to any of our podcasts, you've heard us talk about this a lot. And I think this is the step that is really missed the most in the beginning because oftentimes when people start thinking about downsizing, they start thinking about it and looking at all their stuff, or they're feeling that they need to because they have too much stuff or the house is overwhelming, or the reasons that they're starting to think about it. And so stuff kind of comes to the forefront and people just start like, okay, I need to just start getting rid of my stuff. And that is one of the steps, but it's not the first step. And so the first step is dream it. And the reason that's the first step is that if we don't know where we're going, then we don't really have the motivation to get there when things get sticky, and we won't get there, right?
You can't downsize well if you don't know what you're moving toward.
Right. So, like anything in life, I mean, if you don't have goals, I'm sure you've heard that many times about goals, and you have to know where you're going and all of that stuff. So, I think that step number 1 is to kind of sit back and be reflective and ask yourself some questions about what your life is going to look like. What is it that's, causing you some friction about making you think about like, hey, I want to downsize, or, what is it that's bothering you? What is it that you would do with that time that it takes you to clean the house or do the lawn or do all of those things? Like, what do you want your future to look like? And spend some time in a notebook and, with your partner, spend some time thinking about that, talking about that. And so the first step is really kind of not even functioning around actually physically doing things. It's really thinking.
Yeah, once you've done that and you have a little bit of that vision of what would make your life easier, then you're no longer asking questions in a vacuum. You're asking along with other questions in different steps. You're asking, does this support what's next? And you have a vision of what's next is. It makes it proactive and not reactive.
Right, because if you're just working from this isn't working, and so I better get rid of some of this stuff, or I better whatever. You aren't moving towards anything. You're just letting go of things, and sometimes that feels more depressing, honestly, like if it's just all about like what are we going to let go of and all of that. And if it is more about like, hey, this is what I want my future to look like, this is what I'm working towards, I want to be able to travel more, I want to be able to spend more time with my family, whatever that is, when you're doing that and you're working towards it, and if you create kind of some little vision board around it, or you create some notebook around, whatever you create that works for you, when you're in the middle of doing some of that stuff, which is going to be a little bit hard, it gives you, if you go back and look at those and be like, oh, right, that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I'm going to get this thing that I want in the future. It helps you with the motivation in the middle of it, but it also makes sure that you get where you want to go.
Yeah, we talk so often about decision fatigue and how many decisions are involved, honestly, in daily life, but you layer on so many more in the downsizing process. And we talk about how you can ease that decision fatigue with parameters. And so that dream kind of becomes the large parameter around everything. And, you're looking at each question of, does this fit that dream?
Right, because it gives you a framework to make your decisions.
Yeah.
And so when you have a framework to make decisions, they're easier to make, or they seem obvious.
Yeah.
Right? So if you know that you're going to move into a space that is 50% smaller than what you have right now, you have a 4,000 square foot house and you're going to move into a 2,000 square foot ranch, whatever that looks like. Logistically, you can only take half your stuff, right? 50% of, if you really look at it like that. And so then that gives you a parameter of, hey, do I need this in the next place? What is my life going to look like? Are these hobbies that I don't do anymore? What of this 50, 100% of stuff, what 50% wouldn't I even miss if I didn't have it? And you know what your parameters are. And so you know how to make those decisions, and they seem much more obvious, because if you don't have the parameters, trying to make a decision just out with no rules or parameters is really hard. If you've ever watched that Top Chef show, or any of those shows where they're just like, make whatever you want, they're like, that just seems so hard because they don't have any guidelines. So give yourself some guidelines by figuring out what you want your future to look like, and that future vision is your guideline for what you're going to do next.
Yeah, it's exactly back to the cooking shows, like, make it with these 3 ingredients.
Right.
What are your 3 top priorities, on location or size or convenience? Really the more detailed you can be in what that dream looks like. Number one, once you've put pen to paper, they're more likely that it will come to fruition.
Correct.
And become exactly what you want of your choice. But number 2, the more detailed it is, the easier every other decision behind it becomes.
And I think that sometimes when people hear dream it, they're like, oh, that's super fluffy. Like, I don't need to do that part. Yeah. But it actually isn't. It's the backbone of it. It's the backbone of figuring out what's next, and then what the rest of it looks like. And so it's not fluffy at all. It's what you absolutely have to start with.
Yeah, and if you skip that step, then it becomes more of a reaction to just whatever comes your way. And the more you do that and those instances stack on top of each other, the more your life is just happening to you.
Right.
And it may not be exactly where you wanted to end up.
Right. So ask yourself questions like, where do you imagine waking up, or what's the new chapter going to look like, or 3 words that describe your next chapter, or what are you relieved to be not dealing with anymore? Just kind of give yourself some bigger questions about what your life is now, what part of it has passed that you can just let that go because it's not going to be the same, what future fun things could be happening, and just kind of give yourself that time to figure out what that vision is.
Yeah, and if there was one action step we could apply to this step, it's after all of that thinking, truly put it pen to paper so that you can revisit it, so that you can, post it somewhere where you're thinking about it more than just a passing thought that you can't remember anymore. Just start with the sentence, I'm downsizing so I can, and fill in that blank. And the more detail you can put in there, the better. But start there and post it somewhere once it's done.
Yeah. So you can remember, keep it top of mind while you're doing the rest of it. So, so step 1 is dream it. Step 2 is decide it. So now you're going to start making decisions about, what we're going to do with all of our stuff and, all of that. So people get stuck on that stuff because they're afraid they're going to throw away something that they want. They're afraid that, their life is going to be different. They don't know what the future looks like, which is why you have to do the first thing. They're guilty because somebody gave them something and now they feel bad about getting rid of it, or they have their parents' things because their parents didn't make the decisions around them and gave them to them. And, guilt is not a gift, right? Remember,
Yeah.
guilt is not a gift.
Not a gift. We did an episode early on, one of our early episodes, 2 or 3, I think, on decision fatigue. And it's super interesting, just that whole science around it. But it's a real thing, and this is the step where
it's just endless decisions.
Yeah, you're going to practice those decisions and practice making it easier. Pulling some research, there's a stat that estimates humans make 35,000 decisions daily.
That's insane.
Daily.
That's so crazy.
That's just in normal life. Now you're adding on this project that involves a myriad of more decisions. We understand why it feels overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think if you can take some bigger sweeping rules, like this is the hobby that I'm going to do now, and the other ones that I have I'm not going to do anymore, then you don't have to make a decision about every piece of the hobby thing that you have. You can just let all of it go. Or, I'm going to keep my top favorite books and the rest of them are going to go. If I'm going to read a book again, then I'll keep it. If I'm not going to read it, but read it again, if it wasn't one that I would want to read over, then I don't need to keep it. Somebody else can enjoy it. We can, let that go. Making some decisions like that then you don't have to look at every single book and decide, necessarily what to do with that. It's a quick question. Is it good enough? I want to read it again. Something like that. It helps with the decision fatigue too.
For sure. And each category, before you start, there's a little bit of thought process around why does this category feel overwhelming to me? And it'll be different for each person. And so choosing those parameters to match how you're feeling about it. The garage just feels overwhelming because it's physically hard to move all this stuff I don't want anymore. Okay, so then you get an outside resource and haul it away. But, this feels hard because I have guilt because it's all from, my mom's house. Then you need a different parameter. I'm going to choose 10 things to honor the most and keep, or, match that parameter to how you're feeling about the category or what you know about that dream that's coming. I have, 200 books and I'm only going to have room for 20. Or I want to reduce my Christmas decorations from 10 bins to 5 bins. That, your situation makes the parameters make sense to make it easier.
Because everything doesn't have the same value. So remember that some things are going to be more valuable to you. They might have more emotional pull for you. You might just love them more because they're your style, whatever that is. But not everything is the same value. So just because it was your mom's doesn't mean, all of those things are the same. And so, again, it's a parameter. I can keep 10 or whatever that is for you. Then it helps you be like, okay, well, this one is my favorite for sure. Like, this is absolutely, I need to keep this. That one, I don't really have a lot of memories around that thing, whatever that is. And so it kind of, again, parameters help you figure out what to keep and what to sell without so many hard decisions. So, and like Heather had said, some of it is an emotional decision. Some of it is physically, I need help. What is it and how can you mitigate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, 4 simple buckets to start thinking about things to group these decisions. There's the things you're going to keep. There's the things that might be, giving by donating or selling trash or recycle, giving to family, and then the maybes. And we've talked in many episodes about that maybe box. It's okay to not make every decision right in the same sitting, but you don't want to delay it by not making a decision at all. So that maybe box is just putting, things in a box, sealing it away, putting a date on it with that thought, if I haven't thought of something that I know is in this box to come open up and get back out, having that regret over it, then you don't revisit it. That date comes and it goes out without opening the box and having to remake that emotional decision.
Because you've already looked at everything in that box. So you aren't, there's not $150 in cash in there somewhere that you might, not.
Yeah.
You've already looked at everything in that box, and you already weren't sure if you wanted it. So it helps you from having decision paralysis if you get in a place where you're like, I don't know about this, I don't know about this. And if you're having a day like that, it's time to stop. So if you've been trucking along and you're making decisions, and then all of a sudden everything's starting to go in that maybe pile, what that means is your mind is saying, I've made enough decisions for today. I am not going to be making any more good decisions today. It's time to go get a snack, go have lunch, go pat yourself on the back for what you've already accomplished today, and give it a rest and come back again tomorrow and do it. So pay attention to those cues. Hey, that maybe pile's really starting to fill up. It's just time to stop, and that's okay, because it happens. And just know that that's normal, and it's not you being weak or whatever that is. It's just how your brain works.
Yeah, come back with a fresh day and fresh eyes. Some questions you can ask with this general sorting: do I love it? Do I use it? And does it fit my next chapter? And those are questions different than, oh, is this pretty?
Right.
Do I like this?
Does it still have use?
Yeah.
It's because that's the kind of stuff that goes through people's heads. It's like, well, it's still useful, or it still has the tags on it, or it's, and I never used it, or whatever. And that may be true, but you don't have to be the one that uses it, right? There's somebody else who has been waiting for that and, wants it. So
yeah,
we're not saying fill up the landfill. We're saying get it to give it somewhere so that the person who actually is going to use it and will use it. And when we do that, we don't actually have to. I think some people get mired in I need to find the perfect place for everything, right? Where's the perfect place for this thing? Yeah. And so be careful on getting mired into that and just letting it go. You know what I really love is I love those Buy Nothing Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And the reason that I love those is because you can put something out there, and somebody who has been looking for it will be like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. And I love that. And then the way that it works in our area is you just put it out on the porch. So you aren't, seeing them. It's free. So there's no money exchange. And so they just will come and get it. And it's very area specific. So ours is just our town. So it's not going to be like people all over the place. And I just love that because you actually are finding the right place for it without spending a lot of effort finding the right place for it.
Yeah, when we moved, I did that with, I don't know, probably 10 items or so. And some of them, I did meet the people because it was furniture or whatnot, and we helped load when they came to pick it up. And that was lovely too, because you felt how much gratitude they had for what use they were going to put the item to. And even got some pictures. I think I showed you that, we had a corner hutch that we weren't going to use, and it was repurposed in a little girl's room for all of her sports trophies. And, got a picture from the lady who picked it up of her daughter, and it all, redecorated in that new perfect spot. And, it is nice when you know where it's going, but it's easy. On our end, someone came and picked it up,
right,
and we didn't have to deal with it.
Right.
So,
yeah,
all around good.
Yeah. So find ways to, if your family wants it, great, but not that they have to have it, right? So ask them first before you start letting things go, because they might want something that you have no idea they want. So that happens often, where it's not the things that you think the family would want; it's things that they want that are just not even in your vision of what that is. So ask them first, but then find ways to let them go. And, another question is, if it disappeared, would I even notice? And that's the maybe box right there for sure. Because if you're not sure whether you would notice, if you put that in the maybe box and you don't open that box, then no, you didn't notice.
Pretty much the definition of how that works.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of this that we've started talking about is moving into our step 3, which is release it. It's how to, move these things out of your life and into the hands that you need. And I think that a lot of times in that keep or give decision, we start obsessing on the give and we just don't move to that. And all of the decisions that come along with give really fall into this next step. It's different. You've already decided it doesn't belong in your life anymore.
Right.
And now you're deciding, is it worthy of selling? Is it worthy of, donating? Is it just trash? Do friends and family want it? But be careful not to get mired in those questions back in the release it, or in the step before, the decide it step, because you'll get distracted.
Yeah.
And you won't make enough decisions because you're worried about where will I sell this one, set of china or something.
That is such a good point, Heather. That is such a good point, because the whole decide it step is, does it belong in my life or does it not belong in my life? Not where's it going to go, because we're gonna deal with that later. Just only is it belonging in my life now in the future or not, and then we can decide where it goes. So, and find the best place or whatever that looks like. But you're so right. I think people they have to decide where it goes before they release it, or decide whether it's going to go somewhere, and then they get stuck keeping it because they're not sure and all of that, and they're like, oh, I better just keep it then. Yeah. So I love that. Just first, is it in my life or not in my life? And then we'll figure out where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're thinking about figuring out where it goes, if that pile is large, the actual easiest way to take all these decisions out of your life is something like an estate sale, because that deciding of is it worthy for selling or donation or trash, the process of an estate sale makes those decisions along the line. Everything gets priced as if it's worthy of selling, and the people coming decide whether that was true or not,
right,
and for how much. And, then you're left with, okay, these were all of the things that did not sell, and that gets handled as a donation for everything that is not broken, damaged, just not usable. And then that small amount that is actual trash gets decided. I know you as a family experienced this at your mom's house. We've talked about how you guys threw so much in the dumpster before you decided on the estate sale and brought in those professionals. And in hindsight, there was probably a lot that went in the dumpsters that wasn't at that trash stage yet, just because we all don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So this is another thing. Once you've made that decide it step and it's not, staying in your life, there are paths that you can just let the rest of those decisions on what is sellable, what's donatable, what's trash be made by people who do it all the time.
Right. And so if you have a lot, then the estate sale absolutely works. If you're taking, a decent amount and your family's taking some, and you get to a place where there's just not the best stuff is left because you are taking it or your family has taken it or whatever, and that isn't really going to be a source of income for you in any way, then donation is usually a way that we go. And we have some great donation people. If you're in the Dayton, Ohio area, we can share those with you. But there are great places all over the country. And so there are obviously the national places, but there are some local places too. And so you may do just a little bit of research to figure out, but we have one that helps women who've been in bad domestic situations kind of rebuild a house. And so that just feels great to give them those household things that they need. And sometimes just letting somebody come and take it is better than trying to pick each individual thing and figure out, where it needs to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are going through these steps as a longer process, you're just, dipping your toe into these decisions and change, and you're not quite ready for packing and moving, make that release it step part of your weekly life, whether that's a donation, basket that every week you drive it through the donation drop off on your way to the grocery store, or you schedule a pickup once a month by someone that comes to the house. Have that as a recurring thing, so you're continually moving things out in that release it step before they just kind of creep back in because you dig through the bag for something, or you open up that box and don't seal it back up, and make sure that you're moving it out so that you're feeling the momentum of your house getting lighter.
Yeah. I have a bag in my closet, and if I put something on and it doesn't feel great or doesn't look great, I just put it right in the bag, because I'm not gonna, if I put it back on a hanger, it's just gonna stay there. Like, in my head now, that doesn't feel great, and so it there's no point in keeping it, because it'll just now sit there, and I'm gonna have to leaf around it to find clothes that do make me feel good. So you can kind of create some systems like that, a box in the garage, box in your trunk, whatever that is, that if something isn't working, you just put it in there, and like you said, drop it off once a week, or have, if it's in your garage, you go put it out there and somebody comes and gets it, once a month or whatever that is. Create some systems around that, so that you can move things out. And don't feel like you have to wait until everything that you want to donate the donate guy has to come, because you don't have enough room to breathe sometimes. Yeah. So if there's stuff that needs to go out to the trash, call if your trash, I'll take it all, great. If not, if you need a one-time pickup, do that, schedule that, and put everything out, and just give yourself some room so that you can start to make decisions and see some momentum, because then that makes you want to do more.
Yeah. So step 4 in our 5-step method is refresh it. So this is moving into getting ready for that move to your new place, how to prepare your home to show its best, and be ready for putting it on the market and freeing yourself up for that next step.
Yeah, so you can go through steps 1 through 3 and just stay there, and you don't have to sell the house. But if you are in a place where that's your end goal, is like, okay, we're going to do this and then we're going to downsize, then we're going to look at what are we going to do to the house, or what do we need to do to the house. And honestly, you need to call us, or have us connect you with an agent that can help you, because even a year out is a great time to talk to an agent, because that will give you time to, if there's things that need to happen in your house, that will give you time to schedule those, figure out what that looks like, do all of that. Maybe deep clean some things. Maybe you're going to hire somebody to deep clean some things, but it'll give you like a list and a plan to figure out what you need to do. So it's not a surprise when you get to that point and you're like, oh, I need to, do all these things. I thought I was ready to, I'm ready now, but you aren't, because now you have another list of things to do. And so don't worry that the real estate agent, the house doesn't have to be perfect, or all the stuff that you're going to downsize doesn't have to be out of the house. That's our job. We look past it all the time. And so don't feel like you have to do all those things before you call somebody. We want to give you a whole path of what needs to happen. And maybe we can give you some vendor help of people who can help you with it if you're stuck somewhere as you move along it and you're like, hey, we don't know, we don't have the, moving person to get this and this there. We've got that person. So agents have lots of people to do lots of things, contractors, vendors.
And we, have us out early, because there may be things you don't need to do.
Right.
That you think you do.
Yes.
And, we can guide you to not spend that money that you might not need to spend, or guide you on a choice if it's something that needs done. If the intent is doing it to prepare for a future sale, you want to make sure you're making choices that align with what buyers will be looking for, so that you're not spending that money twice or losing those return on it.
Right. So reach out to a professional for that and get their honest opinion about what work does and does not need to be done in the house for you to sell?
Yeah, some of the, refresh checklist that are common things, a deep cleaning, especially kitchens and bathrooms, touch-up paint, updating simple fixtures, lighting, things like that sometimes, outside, fresh mulch and trimmed shrubs and a clean walkway, and depersonalizing, which goes back to, the decluttering and getting rid of some of your stuff. Don't just pack it all if you're not taking it. If you've done those earlier steps, you should have a lot less, and it's just a matter of cleaning the surfaces. But you should be prepared for a lot of these things to show up on the list of things we would recommend.
Yep. I mean, number one is clean. Absolute number one is clean. And sometimes some fresh paint makes it feel really, really clean. And so as you're living somewhere and as you're moving things and cleaning them out, there will just be dust bunnies and whatnot behind all of those things, and that's totally normal. So people just want to have a clean place that they feel like they can move into.
Yeah, and you can be prepared that these things might come up, but you don't have to necessarily do these things yourself. We can figure out in that strategy what works best, that there are some you do want to do yourself and easily would do. You might already have family or friends that they're like, no, we're going to help you with that. Or, existing service providers you already have. If you already have someone that does all your lawn care, are you just making sure that they put that fresh mulch at the right timing? Or do you need the resources? And we have those resources. So coming up with that whole strategy of what pieces need plugged in where is something we would help with.
Absolutely. So that's getting the house ready to sell. And if you go all the way down that road, then you're going to end up at living it.
Yeah, step 5 is the best one. You're going to settle in and thrive and be loving your new life.
And so that is actually full circle back to dreaming it, right? So now you've dreamed it, you've gone through the process, and now you're going to live it. And so it's just a full circle of getting to where you wanted to be and walking down the path to get there. And, sometimes when that happens, there's an emotional adjustment period around it. So you think that's what you wanted to do, and then you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, this is different. And it is. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think if you've done the dream it part up front, and you realize why you're doing it. Okay, now this place feels smaller than my last place, which it probably is.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to get to travel, or now I'm going to get to be closer to my, family, or whatever that looks like. Or I don't have to take care of X, Y, and Z, so I can spend my time doing X, Y, and Z, something else,
Yeah.
So you're going to have to build some new routines. You're going to have to, especially if you go into a different town.
Yeah.
Some people are downsizing and leaving their town. So definitely, finding new people and,
Where's
all of
my
that.
grocery store?
Yes.
Where am I going to church? Where am I shopping?
Yes,
all of that.
But sometimes it's just new routines around the house.
Yeah.
If you're in the same area, but finding nearby parks, social places. What are you doing? Are there hobbies that you could do? Are there people you want to do those with? Like what is that whole new you gonna look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this step too, if you get there and you realize that maybe you didn't do the prior steps quite as well, you skipped a few, or you didn't
kept more than you should have or meant to, or
Yeah.
didn't realize what it would feel like,
Yeah. Or you're listening to us and you've already done this and you didn't even know about some of these steps. Rest assured it's not too late. You can dream about your new space and what you want your days to look like, while you're there already, and just kind of revisit that and make some tweaks. You can get rid of more stuff if you brought too much and didn't make all the decisions that you wanted to. And you can refresh your new space if it's not quite serving you. You can,
Right.
Get some new furniture if the furniture you brought is too large or doesn't fit the space or doesn't feel right. You can, repaint it if the rooms aren't bringing you the comfort and the joy you wanted to, there's lots of ways to revisit those initial steps in small ways until you're just where you wanted to be.
Yeah, and create some intentional spaces in your new house. If you love reading, create a little reading area that's where you do that. If you craft, have a room that's where you do that. Really create some intentional spaces where you can have your coffee in the morning, and where does that feel good, and what's that view look like, or what are you doing with that? So, kind of create some intentional spaces so that as you're creating your new habits, you're also having good places to do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Studies show that people who intentionally build new routines within the first 30 days of a move experience lower stress and increased satisfaction long term. So really work hard to get to jump into the change and build new routines instead of just trying to recreate everything exactly the same.
Yep.
So, if you've already done this, or when you get there, just asking yourself and looking back at that dream and saying, what's one small joy this move has brought to me?
Yeah.
And really focusing on that with gratitude can change the way you look at things.
Okay, so we're going to start by dreaming it. Then we're going to decide without figuring out where it's going. We're just going to decide whether it fits in our life. Then we're going to figure out how we're going to release it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to refresh the house if that's what needs to happen because we're moving. And then we're going to live that dream that we dreamed.
Yeah, I love it. We love walking people through these 5 steps and just seeing how happy they are. And truly, we have people that just wish they had done it sooner.
That's the number one thing they say.
Yes. So if we can help you get started and walk you through these steps, we would love to do that. You can always reach out to us on our website, downsizingroadmap.com, and we will be back next week with another episode.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.